Our first news topic of the day is honestly something that I'm just happy. One, because I think it looks cool, but two, it feels like validation for Josh just because
Mm.
he is like the only person, and we have the receipts for it, the only person I know that was talking about this movie at the beginning of the year as one of their anticipated movies. Everyone else, I think to their credit, more or less just didn't know the movie was coming because unless you're in the Turtles fandom, I don't think they've done a big job of like
Yeah.
advertising it super well. But Josh has been super high on this movie for a while. And then we get some little snippets here, and we get the first trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And I gotta be honest, to me, it's perfect. And because it's a new installment of a beloved franchise, people are already on the fence about just about everything. Some people hate that the teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are young in this. Some people hate how April O'Neil looks in this. Some people hate that Splinter has a Jerry curl, which I'm just going,
Yeah, dude.
okay, I'll be
Oh,
honest. I don't have any issues with the design, but Splinter does look a little weird to me. I'm not gonna lie. I was okay with it. I for some reason thought that this movie was set in the 90s, to which I'd be okay then if Splinter had a Jerry curl if this was in the 90s. Still a little dated, but whatever. Until one of the thugs makes a Shrek reference, I'm going, well, never mind then. It can't be the 90s. We just have a weird looking Splinter. Um,
yeah.
but besides that, I really, really dug this trailer. I thought this is something totally different than what we've gotten before with the Turtles, but yet it still feels very familiar. It feels
Mhm.
like I didn't watch this incarnation of the Turtles, but it felt like the most recent version that was on Nickelodeon. I think it was like what Rise of the Turtles or
Yeah.
Turtles Rise, something like that. Um, while being a bit like Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse, while never copying that art style. It was
hmm
clearly
hmm
inspired by it, but never copying it outright. I know people have already made a big deal about it. I personally like that they're teenagers here and they're dumb, inexperienced kids that almost kill each other with shurikens. I think that's perfect. Um, it also leads to growth. I think it's more interesting if we grow up with these
I
turtles as opposed to meeting them when they're 17 or
agree.
18, because we almost always meet them when they're like just about to be adults, because then we can rationalize how they're so good at fighting. I'm going, they're turtles. Do we need to apply rational thought here? And that's my big thing is people try to apply rational thought to this trailer. I'm going, stop it.
Yes.
These are
Yes.
teenage
Yes.
mutant ninja
Yes.
turtles. Their arch
Preach
enemy
it.
is named Shredder and Kang. Krang, not Kang. Krang.
Right.
Jonathan Majors
Right.
on the mind. Krang. They have fought dinosaurs, mousers. They've been to other planets. They've visited multiverse versions of themselves. I don't think we should care about the minutia of is this realistic? Like, guys, this was never intended to be realistic. But Josh, as a fellow diehard Turtles fan and someone that has been on board with this since before it was popular, hipster Turtle Josh, what do you think of this trailer?
Which ironically I am dressed like unironically dressed as a hipster today with the beanie and the glasses and everything. Uh I have been on board with this since the beginning, and mostly oddly enough because Seth Rogen is producing and writing it and all that. Like I think a lot of people still see him as this is like such like Seth Rogen behind the scenes has been going through a Robert Pattinson-esque like arc. Like him and his production company did a good portion of Invincible, did a good portion of The Boys, did like his whole series that he did where he plays two different people, one from modern times, one who like
American Pickle.
wakes up from a pickle brine. Like it is he is to me really shown that he knows what to do with serious content. And I gosh, this trailer shows it Gosh, I love this trailer. I love that we're like, hey, they're teenagers. Okay, cool. So 14, 15, maybe. Maybe 15. I don't think we're going that old. I think we're like 13 and 14 at this point. I love that. I think that is something that has been sorely missed. Some of the comments that I've been seeing are like, oh man, I love that they've got teenagers to voice the teenage turtles like they did in the 90s. Guys, they were not voiced in the 90s. They were not voiced by teenagers. I would argue that this is probably the first time that we've had actual teenagers voicing the turtles. Now, obviously, there's probably some some big nerds who have glasses on some YouTube channels that will tell me otherwise. But like, to me, I love this. I love that they act like teenagers. I love that they, at no point was I like, oh, I don't know who these people are. Like, no, instantly. Another complaint I've seen is people like, well, Donnie's voice and Mikey's voice should be switched. I'm like, that does not matter. You're typecasting a voice
from like point. What, a line of dialogue each?
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, I'm so excited for Donnie to have an actual personality that's not just tech boy. Like, are you kidding me? Like, he seems like I think I need to look into it, but I'm pretty sure that's the same kid that did Darwin in the Amazing Adventures of Gumball. And if you have not watched that show, you're actually missing out. It's pretty good. But like, I just love that they're giving Donnie an actual personality. And I love that Mike, like, I just love that they're like actual characters. They're not just like archetype after archetype after archetype after archetype. It's like they're fully fleshed out, like almost, I don't like characters. I was going to say human beings, but that's not the case. I've seen the pushback on April's design. First of all, shame on you. Second of all,
in the comics,
you can sit here and be
in the comics.
I was going to go there.
Yep.
I like, it's one of those like, and I'm going to kind of call out 3C a little bit. Because he was like, I had a big issue with it. I didn't know what they were doing until I saw the comics. And I was like, I hear you. Like, you're used to seeing one thing, and then you have to find a justification for it, and just being like, well, in the original comics, she was a woman of color. So yeah, cool. But at the same time, like, that shouldn't matter. Like, it is April's race is literally the least of my worries of any of this. It does not define her as a character, and to me, it actually makes it more believable and interesting. That is such a small detail. I care
more if she has the red hair than what color her skin is,
which is like so easy to do. Yeah,
which people seemingly gave a pass to Megan Fox for not having red hair, but we'll jump on this April. Although, to be fair, I did hear a lot of people criticizing Megan Fox's April, and rightly so, because her April O'Neil sucked, as did Stephen Amell's Casey Jones, which is one of the worst casting choices ever. We'll talk about it in a discussion, I'm sure. I will say, did miss seeing Casey Jones in this trailer, but then again, I don't think Casey's going to be in this movie at all. I think they're going to save. I'm okay with that. I think they saved Casey and Shredder for the sequel. I don't think Shredder is going to be in this at all, except for most likely a post-credit scene, because
he's from everything that it sounds like, at least from a lot of like the descriptions of what the movie's going to be about and stuff like that, it sounds like Shredder is the one pulling, like him and Baxter Stockman. They are the ones in the background. Baxter Stockman, obviously.
See, I think it's Stockman and Kristen Wiig's Utron.
Well, I mean, I know they are cast is the thing. So I know that they will be the visual representation of our villains in this movie, but I will not be surprised if it's Shredder in the background pulling the strings. I am so excited for all of these different mutants that we get to dive into. And we're actually going, I love that Seth was like, I could see it like, Nick is like, hey, Seth, you want to write us a TMNT movie? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go like deep. We're gonna go head first into the weirdest stuff that TMNT does, which is all the mutant stuff, which is also weirdly enough the most interesting stuff that they do as well. So like, I'm just excited. I love how Bebop and Rocksteady look. I saw a couple of people complain about how they look so pudgy and they're not big. And like
they're a freaking warthog.
Yeah, and also they both fill up that room, so like it would make it. I can understand why people were like, "Oh, they look so short." Like, so like,
They're short to me. They're short because they're super close to the camera. That's why they're short.
Yes.
You bring up Rocksteady and Bebop. I think now it's as good of a time as any to bring up how spectacularly cast this movie seems to be. You have Bebop and Rocksteady, Seth Rogen once again calling dibs on any character that it needs to be voicing a warthog, because this is his third warthog now.
But also, like, he's the perfect voice
really
for
is.
it. So
he and John Cena are Rocksteady and Bebop. I'm going, okay. If anybody can beat, as much as I don't like the Michael Bay movies, his incarnation of Rocksteady and Bebop, which I thought were one of the highlights of Out of the Shadows. Absolutely. Props to Sheamus. I'm kind of sad we don't see Sheamus in more movies, but at least he passed the baton to another wrestler. You have Giancarlo Esposito, Grand Moff Gideon as Baxter Stockman, going, oh, yes, please. And Jackie freaking Chan as Splinter. And, unlike my beloved Kung Fu Panda, I think they will actually utilize Jackie Chan as a voice actor instead of, just giving him 2 lines per movie and calling it a day, so he could be on the poster. I cannot wait for this movie. I'm with you. I think it's cool that we're just immediately jumping into mutants, because a lot of turtle stuff that I've seen seems to think we want to go realistic first and then jump into the weirder stuff later. Dude, again, your franchise is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you want to start realistic first?
My gosh,
we almost always start with like Baxter Stockman and Shredder, and then eventually get to the Utroms and everything else, and with Krang. I'm just like,
complaining right now about Mikey having braces is hilarious to me. Like, guys, it's okay. Like, I don't understand why that's a problem. Like, oh, well, what, they go to the dentist? I'm like, or just, Donnie figured it out. I don't know.
Also,
like, what do you...
And no one's ever asked the question of where do they get the money to order pizza every single day?
Yes! Oh my gosh.
Guys, it's Turtles. Throw logic out the window, and that's okay every once in a while. And that's coming from me, who is, albeit very much a stickler for verisimilitude, as we'll call it. I just think this trailer is fantastic. I think Josh is vindicated right now and just going, okay, you had this on your hype list from the get-go. I more just completely forgot that it was coming out this year, but it has rekindled a love of Turtles that every time there's a new incarnation of Turtles resurfaces for me. I'm just going, welcome back. And I'm just going, oh, I'm having so many flashbacks right now that we will talk about later in our discussion, because Turtles was life for a while for young Nathan.
Before we move on real quick, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I do want to touch base on the Jerry Curl Splinter. First of all, love it. I think it's one of those things, like, again, we often don't give Splinter a personality outside of he's the wise sensei. And at least the 90s movie do try to make him kind of a bit of a goofball. And I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. I would bet money that the Jerry Curl is a flashback to when he's actually first training them. So that will not be the permanent look. But, like, you've got a Tribe called Quest playing, and you're not going to show, like, you have that shot sitting in your back pocket and you're not going to show that. Like, that's perfect. That's too perfect.